All right, and we're back for another episode of Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Inside Sports Fantasy Football, Pop Culture Cosmos, the Lakers Fast Break, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you can, please give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Plus, if you like, share, subscribe, follow, do whatever you can to support us right here at Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It is truly appreciated. Well, let's just say Sunday afternoon, late Sunday afternoon, I had just sat down to go ahead and check out some stuff after I finished some work, editing some shows and things of that nature. It just sat down to go ahead and catch the late game, which happened to be the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. Second play in, I see it happen right before my very eyes. Dak Prescott, who I have as a starting quarterback on my dynasty team, unfortunately had his ankle go in a different direction from his whole body and suffered a compound fracture where the bone actually went through the skin. And if you saw it in detail, it was not too pleasant to watch. But as I noted to Chris at that point in time, shortly thereafter, I started getting trade requests. Funny how the fantasy football owners of the world are out there. But needless to say, I didn't see anything I liked for Andy Dalton. But here today to talk about Dak Prescott's future, how you should approach it now for fantasy football going forward, and more is my good friend indeed. You got to go ahead and check him out on the Domination Sports Nation podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, plus at Chris All Sports on Twitter, anything that he does for Inside Sports, and of course, Chris Sardieri on LinkedIn, which you should go ahead and check out what he's doing there as well. This is my good friend Chris Sardieri. And Chris, as you and I were going back and forth on the DM, it was very unfortunate for Dak Prescott. I feel worse for Dak Prescott than I do the Dallas Cowboys. You'll have to forgive me.
Yeah, absolutely. My son and I happened to be watching the game live, and I told him at the time, and he agreed the Giants would choke it away, and they did a fine job of that. But I digress.
They did.
Yeah, but tip vintage Giants. But I think, I turned my head for a second, and my son saw it happen live. Luckily, he doesn't have PTSD, Dom. But when we saw the replay, that was gruesome. And then to see the live shot of him sitting there with his ankle facing at a right angle the wrong way was brutal. Especially
I will say this. I think the Gordon Hayward and also as well Alex Smith injuries were a little bit angled differently, so it actually was a little bit more gruesome. And I'm not trying to do that to discuss people or whatnot. I'm just telling you, if you go back on the highlights or if you look back on YouTube, because some sicko out there has it on YouTube. Yeah. But I want to go ahead and talk to you about this. It's ironic that Alex Smith comes back into the lineup on the same day that Dak Prescott goes out with such a similar type compound fracture injury. I want to hear your thoughts on Dak Prescott. To me, I was in his corner. I thought the kid really had a promise. I know there's a lot of people saying yes or no. I know a lot of people didn't think he was that good. Some people were just saying he was advantageous of the offense that he's in. Some people don't think he's really a legitimate starting quarterback on another team. I was all in on this kid. I really thought he had a lot to offer. This offense only made it better for him. But I will tell you this, my friend. I'm just hopeful that a complete recovery will be made for him. But I'm also very hopeful that he'll get a chance and opportunity to go ahead and be a starting quarterback once again in the NFL.
Yeah, and it sounds like he will. I mean, with Alex Smith, he had the multiple infections. And by the way, great story. I was so happy to see him come back. Check out the ESPN doc they did earlier this year on him and his surgeries and how he almost needed an amputation. It's truly inspiring. But anyway, with Prescott, I guess the risk of infection's not there. He's a young guy in great shape. They think he'll be able to return by the start of the 21 season. So that's good. What I think bigger picture is the guy took his 1-year franchise tag and don't get me wrong, he made a nice sum of money, but the Cowboys and his agent were going back and forth. They couldn't agree to a long-term deal. And, we all know hindsight's 2020. Should Dak have taken a little less? I know he wanted to get up there in the range of the Goffs and the Carson Wentzes of the world or even Aaron Rodgers. But, football, a career can be done in an instant. It's a lot different than baseball with guaranteed contracts, or even the NBA where a guy like Hayward he had a horrible injury, but he did come back. So it's not like football where a guy's done after one play. So, like I said, you can armchair quarterback that all you want. I think the thing on his side is he's young and teams need quarterbacks. Excuse me.
It's okay, man. It's okay.
And so I think you can be optimistic for the future. Now, from a fantasy perspective, Gerald, we've been banging the drum on this. You have to have a backup quarterback in fantasy. I know you were prepared. Was anyone else?
Yeah. I mean, I got offers, like I said, and that's the reason why I could turn them away so easily is because I had, in just sheer out of luck in my deep dynasty league, I actually had drafted like as a late round, just throw in Andy Dalton just because. Excellent. I just thought, okay, I wasn't looking for just like, I'd have to have a handcuff on there. I just was thinking, you know what? You never know what can happen. He can get traded or he could step in game or two. Here you go. Well, now you've got him for a season in a high prolific, high profile, high octane offense. So that could be a big win for you. And that's because I had 3 other quarterbacks in that dynasty league, just like I hit here that I focused on. So while it's not paying off for me on one team on my ESPN league, it is paying off for me to have those multiple quarterbacks because even though I haven't gotten the trade offer that I like, obviously with the injury of Dak Prescott, it helps to have some type of stability and depth at your quarterback position.
Definitely. And people laugh at me when I say this. If you have Dak, go out and get Andy Dalton. I think he's a serviceable fantasy quarterback. And you say, well, look what he did with the Bengals. That's the Bengals. They're the Bungles. They don't have the talent the Cowboys do on the offensive side of the ball. We saw flashes of it this past Sunday where, if anything, Dom, when he was on last week, my son, to his credit, said, Zeke's going to get the ball more. Don't sell him short. I think that could be the case this time, too. McCarthy might devise an offense more around the run, which could help Dalton set up the pass. So tangentially to that, I still remain bullish on Cowboys wide receivers. And taking Dom's advice, we went this week and traded for CeeDee Lamb. I think maybe he doesn't have the huge numbers he had in spurts this season with Dak there, but I think he's going to be a quality number 2, number 3 wide receiver as the Cowboys make their push to win a very weak NFC East.
You know what? And I don't disagree with you entirely. I still think that Andy Dalton is going to be a little bit more pass happy than people say. Yeah, they might rely early upon the weight of Ezekiel Elliott or even Pollard as the backup, which you saw in spurts during the game this weekend. But I'll say this, my friend, that I think that by the end of the season, you're going to see a lot of passes coming from Andy Dalton. It's not like he's shied away from the pass. It's not like he's shied away from the ball, throwing the ball all that often.
Yeah, and even if teams do stack the line like they've been doing with Zeke, I think Dalton can put up numbers. I'm fairly confident with that. I mean, I forgot for a brief moment he was the backup, and when I saw that, I figured, it's a heck of a lot better than Kellen Moore, whoever the Cowboys have had in previous years.
They were very smart to get it. Maybe it's because of the contract situation, what have you, but still it made sense. And obviously now for fantasy football owners, if you are interested or need to go ahead and find a replacement for Dak Prescott, that's the first place I would look. I understand there's probably other borderline quarterbacks out there, but Andy Dalton could get you a lot of points. Maybe not the level that you're going to be seeing from a Kyler Murray or what you're seeing from Russell Wilson, obviously, or even what you saw from a Dak Prescott, but he can still get you 20 fantasy points a game with that offense and throw a lot more touchdowns than maybe some of the backups that are out there already.
Absolutely. You really can't go wrong with that. And as we're seeing not only players get hurt, but players come down with COVID, points have been hard to come by these past few weeks, especially with the unscheduled bye weeks that pop up.
Absolutely. The only team that seems to not be suffering from it as far as from an offensive standpoint, because their defense is so bad, is the Dallas Cowboys. So if you have a chance, he's out there, go get him. If you try to trade for him, please give at least a better offer than what was offered to me for Andy Dalton. But my friend, I will tell you this, there's still more to talk about on today's show. That includes the lack of available running backs. And this is something that concerns me is because at least on one team already, I've had a serious injury bout with my running backs. I've already been down 3 running backs already, and I'm still trying to find and scour the waiver wire and also trades to get more running backs. I mean, to me, we talked about this last year where I thought there was a dearth of running backs that were really able to be productive for you on a consistent week-by-week basis. I'm finding that same thing again, even earlier at this point in the season than I did last year.
Yeah, it's slim pickings on the waiver wire. We've had this issue with both our teams, especially now with the bye week starting to hit. Each week we try and take a flyer on someone. I think the Rams have 3 running backs, one of whom, if they were the go-to guy, would probably be a pretty nice fantasy football starter, maybe an RB2. But Sean McVay can't seem to decide on one, and I get it. He wants to keep them fresh. But for fantasy owners like us, we're pulling out our hair. Le'Veon Bell being released, I mean, he's probably going to have some value if he goes to a halfway decent team or a contender. And then today you've got Melvin Gordon getting arrested for a DUI. There's talk at a minimum he'll be suspended. Worst case, they may release him. So Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman suddenly have value on waivers. They're not the greatest guys, but they're going to get touches like an RB1. At least one of them will. And then too, you've always got the rotations that'll frustrate you. You look at what's going on in Detroit. I don't know who's going to be the featured back week to week. So at this point, yeah, I mean, all you can do is just stash and hope that someone emerges. So until then, I think you've got to tamper your expectations for total points, especially out of the RB position.
Exactly. And if you have healthy running backs and you have a plethora of them, now is the time to look for trades to go ahead and bolster your either quarterback or wide receiver positions, because you can really score big, because there's now a lot of desperate owners out there like me in my ESPN league that really need running back help, and you can really snooker them with a good trade right about now.
Absolutely. We've tried to make deals and we've been shot down, but at some point, some of these offers are going to be too good to pass up.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Once again, it's my good friend Chris Sardieri at Chris L Sports on Twitter, Chris Sardieri on LinkedIn, and also the Domination Sports Nation podcast. You got to go ahead and check out each and every episode as he and Dom cover the world of sports each and every time out on the Domination Sports Nation podcast. I want to ask you this, my friend, before we go ahead and head to the doghouse, and also give everybody an update on Pick'em Challenge, which I may not be able to do because I may actually throw up while doing it. It was so bad for me last week. But I want to go ask you this. Defensives and special teams, for most leagues like ESPN and whatnot, they're usually a combined deal. Are they still important? At one time, I used to be scoring really big and used to have a high priority on making sure in the draft I get around the 10th, 9th, 10th, 11th, so I would get the strongest defenses out there. It seems to be right now that the defenses and special teams, outside of a big flurry from one, maybe 2 teams at best each weekend, that is not the case. So I want to hear your thoughts on defenses and special teams. Is for most teams the best thing to do is just to stream at this point in time?
I'm going to have to agree with you. So we have the Bills in one league and the Steelers in another one. We had to release them the Sunday that they're suddenly were informed that they were having a bye week, just to line up issues and other players that we had to protect. We put them out there. Someone else grabbed them. And at the time I was kind of perturbed and kicking myself. But then I realized defensive scoring is way down this year. It's getting to the point, dare I say this, defenses are starting to go the way of the tight end, where they just frustrate you and you're happy to get high single-digit points. And I think we're now at the point in the season, between bye weeks, the COVID issues, injuries, and big picture, the total lack of defense in the league so far this year, I'm guessing due to the lack of training camp and preseason, that just start rotating your defenses. I mean, we put in a claim. We should find out tonight if we got the Dolphins. They look good against the 49ers. And
playing
then
the Jets, same here.
The Jets come to town with a sure to be lame duck head coach. I don't know who's quarterbacking. Le'Veon Bell's gone, but they're a turnover machine waiting to happen. So Gone are the days of the legendary Baltimore Ravens or even some of those good Buccaneers defenses or the Vikings a few years back where you're counting on double-digit points each week. Again, lower your expectations and start flipping them so you don't have to waste a valuable backup roster spot hiding a defense on a bye week. It's just not worth it this year.
No, it's not. And I couldn't agree with you more on the fact that, like tight ends, it's really getting hard to find any defenses and special teams that can really be productive and consistent for you on a week-by-week basis. And I'm very happy if I get both my defensive and special teams and my tight ends in the high single digits. I'm very pleased if that happens.
That's a good week.
Absolutely. That's a good week indeed. We just got a question in. Hey, it's Blue Crew Chep. Thanks for coming back, my friend. He needs to drop one to acquire a bye-week running back. Good luck on that. And we just talked about that. Higgins or John Brown?
We were very high on Higgins originally, and I know he had a rough week last week.
He did.
John Brown's one of these guys. Throughout the years, I've had him on my teams at various points in his career, whether he was with the Bills or the Cardinals before that. I just feel like he's so streaky, and for you to try and guess whether he's going to be hit or miss in a given week, I don't know how to do that. The one thing I'll say is going up against the Chiefs, who are coming off a loss, I think the way Josh Allen played, Steve Spagnuolo will probably find a way to scheme against him this coming week. Not as thrilled with Higgins, but I do know Joe Burrow will throw the ball. They went up against a tough Ravens team. I think that might be a more favorable matchup this week. I vote to dump Brown. What do you think, Gerald?
I was really high on Brown as well. In fact, we talked about him being a starter. I think, was it 1 or 2 weeks ago that we talked about him being somebody that you should start to lean on, and he lets you down. I guess whatever the offense that's being created in Buffalo is just Josh Allen's finding other targets, which is kind of disappointing. I'm kind of leaning towards John Brown myself, which is to me very sad, but it's got to be the case because I really had high hopes for John Brown being a top wide receiver in this league, and that still may happen, but unfortunately, it's not the case right now.
Dom, he's not here. We'll have to get him on soon, but he read me a stat this evening. He said that since 2016, Josh Allen has the lowest completion percentage of starting quarterbacks in the NFL. I believe those are the parameters of it. And then he pointed out in the next sentence he read, and Josh Allen's only been playing in the NFL since 2018. So while I like him and I think he's got fantasy value, at least from a throwing perspective, not the most accurate guy, which hurts his receiver's value.
Absolutely. And it was still kind of fun to see him in the top 5 for the first 3 weeks of the season, as far as in the top 5 in the league. Now, he obviously is going to regress and fall to the middle of the pack or what have you, but he still could be a fine choice for people going forward as far as a bye week quarterback. Blue Crew Chep wanted to add in that he is the number 2 waiver priority. Should he go for Madison or Freeman, or should he use his waiver priority for Madison or hope Freeman goes to free agency? Madison with the Vikings, he is being counted upon. In fact, ESPN already has him about scoring 18 points this week. How do I know? Guess who went out for him on the waiver wire yesterday? So I've got him waiting, hopefully, for me when I go ahead and check my league. Keeping my fingers crossed on that one because I'm really hurting for running backs myself. Want to hear your thoughts on that. I think Madison right now is the more popular choice, and I think he's the one that's targeted to do better, at least in the short term.
Yeah, to paraphrase my daughter's favorite play, Hamilton, you've got to go with Alexander Madison. Besides the fact he's got a catchy name. So Cooks seems to always be hurt. When Madison has played, he's looked good. He clearly looked good on Sunday night. This is a guy who could be potentially a long-term starter, not only for the Vikings, but in fantasy. As a Giants fan, I'll tell you Freeman looked good, but look at who he went up against last week. It was the Cowboys, one of the most porous defenses in the NFL. Now, I'm not saying the Redskins are especially stout, but as the Giants' offense sputters, and Daniel Jones tends to do that in the red zone or with turnovers in general, that's going to hurt Freeman as well, whereas I feel like Madison is a little better equipped to put up numbers.
My God, to be a New York football fan right now, I feel so bad. I feel so bad for you guys.
Brutal. I mean, the Yankees blew the playoffs. That's another story, and it's so bad I still have to wear their hats. I can't wear any Giants gear.
I could totally understand. Well, remember, 7 years of Lakers ineptitude and drama until we got our world championship. So I'm hoping for the same for you in NFL, my friend. I'm hoping for the same.
Well, you've guys got a general manager. I met Rob Pelinka once at one of my son's basketball tournaments in Vegas. Seems like a nice enough, intelligent guy. He was actually coaching his son's team, and it's a lot more than I could say about Dave Gettleman.
We'll just go ahead and leave it on that note right there. But my friend, before we head on out and before we head to your woof, woof, woof doghouse, and by the way, thank you, Blue Crew Chep, for always your questions each and every week. And you can now always go ahead and ask us at Chris L Sports, at IS Fantasy Football at yahoo.com, or at Inside Sports FF on Twitter as well. If you have any questions, or Inside Sports Fantasy Football on Facebook as well. So you can go ahead and share us your questions if you have any on what's coming up for you at fantasy football. But always a great question from you, Blue Crew Chep, and truly appreciate it. But before we head on out and before we head on over to the doghouse, I want to ask you this. Jacksonville, and also I want to ask you about Tennessee, who's surprising a lot of people yesterday after taking that extended COVID time off, by putting a wallop on Buffalo. I want to hear your thoughts. Are these offenses for real on both accounts? Because they are sure beginning to look like it for me.
Yeah, I think Tennessee is. And, you say wallop. How about Derrick Henry putting the smackdown on Josh Norman last night? I know it's all over social media.
In my Dynasty League, he is the reason why I'm 4-1.
Yeah, everyone writes him off and he keeps chugging away. But I like the way Tannehill's playing. The Titans are down receivers. The legendary Jonnu Smith keeps managing to put up points. It doesn't matter. Tannehill finds a way to spread the ball. And I think a lot of that is a function of, I guess you try and key on Derrick Henry and hope for the best. And neither of those approaches seems to be working for opponents this year. With Jacksonville, I mean, look, they're kind of like the Dolphins of this year. Everyone thought the Dolphins are going to tank for Tua. Everyone thought the Jags would be the tank for Trevor team this year. And that's not the case. I mean, they're playing hard. They're not a great team, but they don't give up. They're gritty. And Gardner Minshew, I mean, like you said with Dalton, there are a lot worse backup quarterbacks you can have in fantasy football because he's playing on a losing team. They're throwing a lot. He's got some good receivers like Chark. There's some value there in Jacksonville as well.
I think Gardner Minshew is deserving of a long-term opportunity at the quarterback position. I don't know about you. I know people are saying he's just keeping the seat warm and the jury's still out with him, but he's beginning to look like a real deal for me.
Look, at the very least, let's say they end up with a Trevor Lawrence or a Justin Fields. You better keep Minshew. He's an experienced quarterback, and as we just saw in Dallas and with many other teams, if your starter goes down, you plug him in, and I'm not going to say your team's improved, but I feel comfortable with him. I don't think that's a team that would miss a beat. There are plenty of backup quarterbacks that have led their teams to the playoffs, and I think Minshew stays regardless. I agree. It would be a good move to keep him.
There you go. I think it would be, but we'll have to wait and see. I know now that Gardner Minshew's had some playing time. I don't think he would like it very much if a rookie was drafted and a rookie's going to go ahead and come soon thereafter. So it just shows that the team does not have very much confidence in that player, in Gardner Minshew. So we'll see how long-term the fits are going to be offensively. But right now, I think there would be anybody right now on that offensive scheme for Jacksonville would be a good thing to have on your fantasy team.
Definitely. And as we say, a poor NFL team on the field, you should not dismiss their fantasy value. And that's case in point right there is the Jaguars.
Reminds me a lot of the Tampa Bay team last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I don't think Minshew's going to throw as many INTs, even if he does struggle.
No. But the wide receivers, absolutely. So, all right, my friend. It's been a great episode. Thanks again to Blue Crew Chep for that awesome question. But before we get to the Pick'em Challenge, which I would like to avoid, but I'm going to have to go ahead and update everyone anyways on it. Woof, woof, woof. It's time to go to the doghouse.
Finally got off the snide. Thank you, Tennessee Titans. I was getting worried reading they hadn't practiced in 18 days or whatever it was, and the game kept getting pushed back, and the league was threatening to fine them, sanction them, penalize them, whatever the case was. So thank you for that win. Finally get in the W column. This week, I got to tell you, Gerald, I don't know if you've been looking, but Vegas, despite all the chaos that's going on in the NFL, has really gotten in line with their odds. And each week I look, and there are games that kind of stick out to me, and then I dig in from there. And then there are weeks like this week where the matchups are kind of up and down, questionable, not sure which way some of them will go, and the odds seem to be even more difficult. So the professionals know what they're doing. Very rarely will you'll see a 3-point line lately. I don't know why I'm seeing a lot of 2.5s, but on a sheer numbers basis, I did see a 3.5. That extra hook might help. And it's the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Cleveland Browns. It's in Pittsburgh. These are two teams that looks like are going to be contending with the Ravens for the top spot in the AFC North, the old black and blue division. And with the Browns getting 3.5, look, I know they've struggled over the years against the Steelers, but watching some of that Eagles-Steelers game, and besides Chase Claypool putting up monster numbers and being the number one demanded free agent in fantasy this week, I was kind of taken aback by the way Carson Wentz was able to put points up on that Steeler defense, which goes back to our earlier theme. The defenses are struggling this year, and I really like the way the Browns are playing. Nick Chubb goes down, Kareem Hunt pops in. OBJ's been quiet, I guess because Mayfield's been getting him the ball. It seems like the offense is working, and they're happy with Kevin Stefanski. So would I be surprised if the Browns win outright? No, not entirely. But, again, that hook always comes in, hoping it's a close game. If they do lose, it's only by a field goal if the Steelers pull it out, and I've got that extra half a point to cover. So call me crazy. I'm going to pick the Browns this week in the doghouse.
I'm not going to call you crazy. At least not yet, anyways.
Give it time.
Give it time. Give it time, indeed. Once again, it is Chris Ardieri at Crystal Sports. If you really like his underdog pick for the doghouse, let him know at Crystal Sports on Twitter. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. I cannot thank you enough for stopping by. Actually, also as well, Blue Crew Chep for the great question. It's been awesome, but we always got to hear your closing thoughts on the way out. So, my friend, want to hear your thoughts right now on Week 6 coming up for the NFL.
Here's my thought. I was looking at the TV schedule, and I realized due to bye weeks and the shifting of games, where it seems like we have 2 Monday night games each week, which, don't get me wrong, I actually like. It's a novel concept. If you look at the 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific time window, there are only 2 games this week. One of them is the Packers and Bucks, which is one of the better matchups, if not best, this Sunday. And the other one's the Jets and Dolphins. So, Gerald, I don't know about you. I'm going to have a dilemma this week, but I think I'll lean towards that Packers-Bucks game, Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady, and kind of thinking that game down in Miami won't get as big ratings. What do you think?
I have a feeling you're right, my friend. I think that's going to be a very ugly game with Miami and New York. I know that a lot of people will be seeing right now, as I said before, when it comes to New York football, that it's really not that good right now. And in fact, you've got 2 of the worst teams in the NFL already there. I think of the 2, I think New York, the Giants, are a little bit more promising because they almost won the game in Dallas. But still, it's very disappointing, again, if you're a New York fan. And I'm very sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, to say the least. But I guess that's why we have fantasy football, right? And red zone. So you don't have to watch your team pitiful week after week.
This is true, my friend. This is true. But before we head on out, it is the Pick'em Challenge update, as we do every week. You want to go ahead and catch our thoughts every week on Facebook at Inside Sports Fantasy Football, where you'll see us updating on Saturday night the 3 picks that we have for the weekend. In this case, we'll have 3 more coming up on Saturday night for Week 6. But through Week 5, Chris has now taken a dominating, pardon the pun of your podcasts, dominating lead over myself, as he didn't even have a good week either. It's 1-2. I finished 0-3. I'm struggling. I'm hurting. I'd be put out on the waiver wire. I would already not even be touched on the waiver wire by any fantasy football owners out there right now. I am really hurting. I am 4 games down. Right now, Chris is at 10-5. I'm at 6-9. But check out my thoughts this weekend and Chris's thoughts. Hopefully, I'll get off the schneid and start gaining some ground back on Chris real soon.
Good luck to you.
Good luck to me, indeed. I need any luck I can get right now, as long as it's not bad.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, my friend, it's been great talking to you. As always, I'm looking forward to week 6. The matchups are there. I like really I'm hopeful that we can figure out some way to go ahead and work out some trades to get some running backs on my rosters. I know you're trying to work some deals and try and scour the waiver wire for anybody that's there, although I know it's hard right now to go ahead and find that. But if you have any questions, please let us know at Inside Sports. Right now, you can go ahead at any point in time and get a hold of us at Inside Sports FF on Twitter or isfantasyfootball@yahoo.com. All right, my friend. Looking forward to this weekend in the NFL. Cannot thank you enough for being a part of it. Just hopeful we'll go ahead and maybe even up the matchup a little bit more on the Pick'em Challenge. Looking forward to going ahead and catching up some ground on you, but we'll let everyone know where we stand. And, of course, everything that went on in Week 6 right here next week at Inside Sports Fantasy Football.